Welcome to the Michael Singer podcast, presented by Sounds True, in partnership with Shanti Publications. For more information about Michael Singer's work, access to all prior episodes, and information about upcoming releases, we invite you to join us at michaelsingerpodcast.com.
Jagradav, Jai Masters. There's so many levels that one can approach spiritual growth and spiritual understanding. In yoga, there are limbs of yoga. I'm not going to name them, but one of them is called Jnana Yoga, the yoga of wisdom. Why is that a yoga? If the mind comes in harmony with deeper truths, as opposed to me, I, mine, personal thoughts. Like what? Well, I teach you all the time. Like contemplate the universe, contemplate how many stars there are and how far away they are from each other, and until it blows your mind, until everything else looks, what am I doing? It's insignificant, it's meaningless. I'm only here for a few years. So contemplate deep thoughts. That's Jnana Yoga, yoga of wisdom, yoga of knowledge. So let's do that for a minute. This word God, I try to avoid. I wish everyone else did, because it's God of the mind. It's just whatever you want to think about God, that can be your God. You pray to God. I'm not going to take that away. It's wonderful. But what does that mean? It means you don't understand. You don't understand the universe is perfect. You understand there is no you. There is no I. There's just God. But you divide it into all these little pieces, and then you get messed up, and then you ask for help. I'm not saying that the Force doesn't answer, but it's not from wisdom. It's not from a depth of understanding. It's from the logic and thoughts of the personal mind. Look, you all argue about who's God. Is it Christ? Is it Buddha? Is it Allah? Like anything you do with your mind creates complete disharmony, and then you call it God. And you fight with each other as to whose name of God is right. That's very funny. Well, that's total lack of Jnana Yoga. That's lack of understanding or wisdom. So if you step all the way back, and we'll go down to more debased stuff. People like to hear it, understand how to deal with themselves, and get a little bit happier and not having so many problems. That you fell from the garden, so you hit your head. So you got to deal with this stuff, right? But to understand from a wisdom point of view, not a personal point of view, what is God? The universe is infinite and eternal. Since God is the creator of the universe, God is infinite and eternal. So that's the end of all this little stuff. I try to get your mind to understand what infinite means. I'll do it for a moment. It's like you see a star in the sky. It's called your sun. It's 93 million miles away. That's a very, very long way away. I think the circumference of the earth is 22,000 or some stuff like that, right? That's 93 million miles away. And I told you, the next star closest to you is 4.3 light years away, which means nothing to our minds. And so I give you a comparison. I'll just do it again. I've done it many times. It's okay. If you took a light beam, something traveling at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, 186,000 miles per second. That's going fast. And you held it above the planet Earth for 1 second, it would circumnavigate the globe 7.5 times. Is that fast enough for you? The distance that light beam can travel in 4.3 years at that speed, you hit the next star. And just take a breath. That should blow your mind. That's the next star. And there's 300 billion of them in your galaxy. And there's trillions of galaxies. How big is that? So in many of the traditions, including the ancient Hebrew tradition, the Rebbes, the great rabbis, don't use the word God. Just to use the word means you think you know what you're talking about. How could you give a word to what I just said? It goes on forever and is that big. And if that's the creator of the universe, you say it's the creator of the universe, then how dare you think you understand anything? So it should blow your mind. That's what God should do, blow your mind. Because Meher Baba said, man minus mind equals God. Man minus mind equals God. In other words, if you're not busy thinking in your little tiny little mind about what you think God is, because you ain't getting nowhere with that, if all that's gone and it blew your mind, what's left is closer to the infinite, to the absolute. So the way the great yogis explained when they merged, so they had this wisdom, was as follows. In the beginning, but you can't say, I like it when people ask, well, what was before the beginning? There is no before the beginning. That's what in the beginning means. It is that which is. I told you once they asked Meher Baba, great enlightened master, fully merged in the divine consciousness, Baba, who are you? Because they felt his energy. They saw the depth of his wisdom and his being. And they said, Baba, who are you? He said, I was in the beginning, before all else was created. I will be in the end, after all else falls away. There was never a time I was not, and there will never be a time when I am not. In other words, when Moses went to the burning bush, and the burning bush, God talked to him and said, go down to the pharaohs and let my people go. And he said, go down there and challenge the strongest army that exists with one person to do it. And Moses said to him, he said, come on, man, I'm just one man, I'm one person. They have a lot of gods down there. You know that in Egyptian culture, right? And he asked this beautiful question, what name should I say I'm going in to do this? He said, I am that I am. In other words, I am that which is, always was, and will never not be. I am that I am. Isn't that beautiful? All right. So what does that mean? How does creation come about? What is all this? And the simple way to understand it and look at it is to understand it's not wrong to think of God as a force, as energy. You're going to create something, you need energy to do so. So God is the energy that can create. What do we know about that? You say energy, but I'm looking at people. I'm looking at buildings. I'm looking at stuff, right? So when you live at a time where it's very easy to talk about this, and you sit there, well, what do you mean God is a force? There's a buildings, there's people, there's things, there's matter. And your scientists have looked down there and said, no, you're not looking close enough. There's really these things called molecules. That's really what it all is. And really, not even then, these things called atoms. You've heard of those. And you don't say, where are the atoms? You're looking at them. It's not like they're in a corner somewhere. You're here. Your body is made of atoms. Every single cell in your body is made of atoms. Every building is made of atoms. The clouds are made of atoms. The air is made of atoms. Right or wrong? Oh, okay. Well, getting closer. But then they've gone further down. I've explained this. I want you to at least have a basic understanding. There's this thing called quantum physics. That means that they have split the atom. Yes, they created atomic bombs when it happens, okay? But they have managed to take an atom that has electron, neutron, and protons and break it apart so that now it's just electron, neutron, and protons that pull themselves together through the forces of magnetism, etc., to create this thing that you call an atom. Well, they've split those, and the amount of power that's inside of what was holding them together created all the atomic bombs, atomic things. Okay, so now we're saying there's not atoms, there's electrons and protons. The beauty of quantum physics is said, well, is that the farthest you can go down? Is that the beginning of creation, that there are these electrons, negatively charged neutrons and protons in the nucleus? And what they found is no, they have these giant cyclotron machines, like miles big colliders, super colliders they're called, where they shoot protons at each other from 6 miles, whatever distance is, miles away distance. I think it crosses the border between France and Switzerland or something like that, right? And they shoot them at each other. And it's so perfectly aimed that they hit each other at the speed of light. And when they hit, they break apart. But I thought that electrons and protons were the basic elements of creation. It breaks apart. What does it break apart to? Well, that's when it gets interesting. And that's what quantum physics is. But it's studying what happened when they broke apart and there were subatomic particles. They call them a subatomic particle, below particles. And they gave them names. I like that. You might get a basic class in quantum physics. Well, you break them apart, there's all these little parts that came out. Well, what do you want to call this one? A quark. A quark is a category of 6 different ones of these. So what do you want to call the different ones, the different quarks? I love that. An up quark, a down quark, a strange quark, a charmed quark, a bottom quark, and a top quark. They just made them up, all right? It's like just give it a name, all right? And so that's one category of subatomic particles. Then there are leptons and there's bosons, and it just gets pretty complicated. But it's just, these are the things they found when they broke apart, not just the atom, but the neutrons and protons. Then, and this is the great part, that's why we're talking about God, they looked down further, and a lot of that's math, not physically looking, just studying the behavior patterns of what they saw. And they said, it really doesn't act like a particle. Is a quark a particle? Or is it a field of energy that behaves like a particle? And that's the essence of quantum physics, is there's this field they call the quantum field, and they say it's omnipresent. Years ago, I read an article from NASA, and it used the word, the quantum field is omnipresent. And chills went through my being. The only time I ever heard the word omnipresent used is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. God, all right? Now they've used the word omnipresent. Who? Scientists. Regular scientists, all the scientists of the world. Basically, Chinese scientists and Russian scientists and German scientists, they all profess to what's called the standard model, which is this. So what they're saying is that there's a field. They don't know what it's made of. They don't claim they understand what the quantum field is, but they know that it can vibrate, that vibrations can happen in the quantum field, similar to a leaf falling into a still lake. What happens when a leaf falls in a still lake? It makes vibrations, and those vibrations interact with each other, and therefore they create more complex vibrations, etc. That's what they're saying is happening in the quantum field. They're saying there's nothing there. There's just vibrations, just agitations in the quantum field, and they interact with each other. And sometimes the down quark interacts with an up quark, and 2 down quarks hitting each other with an up quark makes a neutron, etc., etc. And they're able to build it up from nothing, from just force fields. Whatever you want to call it, there's vibrations. Like music creates a vibration, doesn't it? It's just a vibration. And they right now can build the universe from those vibrations. That's pretty much almost totally. The standard model can build everything you're looking at, everything you interact with every day, every single thing, and show you it's not really there. Most scientists nowadays say there are not particles. There are just forces that behave like particles. There's a force, and if you interact with it, it seems to have a negative property. They have properties, and that's all an electron is a wave that has a negative property, and they interact together, and by the time they're done, they build an atom, and oh my God. Now, why are we discussing that in a spiritual discussion? How much more spiritual can you get? You've now said there is no form. You said all of it emanates from a field of energy. Even Einstein said that before even deep quantum physics. He said, energy is matter, matter is energy, and the difference is a temporary state. Ice is water, water is steam, steam is ice. They're just a state. How fast are molecules moving? They're all H2O molecules. They're all the same molecules, just vibrating at different rates. Well, that's what's going on down there. But down there is this. Now, that should blow your mind completely. Like when you wake up in the morning and your bed is there and your dresser is there and the ceiling is there and your clothes are there. No, they're not. I mean, they are and they're not. I don't know what to tell you, all right? What's really there is quark, leptons, and bosons interacting with each other, and just so happens that they interact in a way, even though time and space keep moving, that it comes back up and looks the same. That should blow your mind. And again, Einstein said something about that. He said, reality is just an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. If every time you woke up, it was a different color or a different form, all right? But it keeps emanating. And it didn't freeze there. It's moving through time, right? This is Jnana Yoga. Hear me? That should blow your mind. Instead of thinking about what did Sherry say, or, oh my God, I gained a pound. Whoa, you didn't gain squat. You're not even there, okay? And it creates a situation where your mind is liberated from these tiny little thoughts. Okay, go slowly. So that's what form is. That's all that's going on. It's just these wavelets interacting together based upon what? The laws that cause those vibrations. We know what happens when the laws do that, but we don't know where that comes from. Like, why is it like that? Now you're getting down to, if you understand, where did God come from? What is that force, that underlying force that's omnipresent? That field is everywhere in the universe. Every single star is made of that. The black holes are made of that. Everything's made of that. And it's just they're emanating, how many? 300 billion stars? I just told you how far apart they are. And all the galaxies are all that field vibrating everywhere. Always has been ever since the beginning of creation. Whoa. I don't know about you, but I would rather think about that than the zit on my face. There's more to it. I'm just laying one basics. Where did form come from? Nature. Where did nature come from? We know. That's far out. You are so brilliant. Your minds are so brilliant that you studied that down to the point. It took thousands of years that you got down to the point. Tell Aristotle it's not really here. All right? It's not going to happen. They don't understand any of it. But you understand what I just talked to you about, at least basically, right? You live in a world, you've heard these words, you see the basics, you understand the electromagnetic field, color, and heat are just vibration rates of a field of energy. Which, by the way, the electromagnetic field is one of what's called the bosons in the quantum physics thing. There are quarks and leptons and bosons. Those are forces. And those forces come out of that field also. Everything's out of the field. Magnetism, this, that, all out of one field. Well, that field, kind of like God. I mean, I would say it's the creator of the universe. Why it did what it did, how it is sitting there creating. Every time you look at a field with sunsets, that came from that field. Some unbelievable creative artist out of the whole, all the galaxies bothered to paint that out of those vibrations. Don't you doubt one iota, that's where it all comes from. Color, form, everything is just little vibrations that put themselves together and become atoms, neutrons, protons, blah, 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 and end up, you see them as a sunset. Anybody understand the power of Jnana Yoga? By actually contemplating this, it liberates you. It frees you, and it gives you a much better understanding if you're going to use the word G-O-D, right? Comprehend and understand what Christ said. Not a hair on your head moves except that God moved it. Not a sparrow falls from the tree except that God is aware. That's because it is that. The sparrow is it, the tree is it, the falling is it. So form, it blows your mind. I would love for you to think about that periodically, like all the time. If you haven't caught on, I pretty much do. For 50 years, all right? It's like you're contemplating. You say, why would I do that? How's it earn money? Leave me alone. You're contemplating truth. There's truth. The universe exists. That quantum field is real, and it's everywhere, and it's creating everything I just told you. So that's one aspect of what's going on, is where did form come from? Because it's really just God's energy. It's an energy field. Oh, okay, why does it look like this? Why did it make that beautiful sunset? Why did it make woman? Why did it make man? Why did it make all these different things? Why did it make strings that can vibrate like music and pianos? And the answer is very simple. Because it expressed itself. You listen to me. Every single thing that exists is an expression of the quantum field. I haven't called it a name yet. I haven't said it did it purposely, did I? Okay? Oh no, it's just random. Come on, be with me. And the fact that that field every moment vibrates throughout the universe to create every single thing you're interacting with, including the beautiful sunset, including this, including oceans and water and the earth and not earth and Mars, every single thing. It just happened to be that way, all right? It's nothing. The fact that it melts your heart when you look at that sunset, we're going to get to why that does that, all right? That is, in my humble understanding and appreciation of things, there's a word named God, and that's where that comes from. It comes from a force that is so intelligent, so unbelievable. Like, not even right to say, oh, God is more intelligent than you are. Give me a break. You're talking about the whole universe vibrating at the same time and keeping its form together from a field that's just emanating all of this. So that level of intelligence is incomprehensible. Level of creativity, it made all the planets and all the stars, is unbelievable, isn't it? That's why you contemplate Jnana Yoga. That's why it is a branch of yoga, because it stops the stupid mind. Do you know anything? No. Why? Because nothing's there to know. It's just all there is to know. Meher Baba said it. God alone is real. Everything emanates. We're not all the way down to God's consciousness. We'll get there in a moment. But we are just one step above it. So if you ask enlightened master, what is the quantum field made of? He's going to say consciousness. What are your dreams made of? Not their subject matter, the actual buildings and people and things that you interact with in your dream. Well, they're not made of form. They're no atoms. They're made of energy. They're made of consciousness. They're made of mind stuff, right or wrong. Well, so is this. And that's not a philosophy. That's quantum physics. That's physics. But they don't, I have to admit, they don't say it's made of consciousness because they don't know. Why do yogis know? Let's get that over with. Because instead of getting microscopes and telescopes and machines, they went into caves. Oh, how good is that? What a waste of your life. The great masters, the rishis of old, thousands of years ago, they went into caves and went into solitude. Why? Because they found that inside there's something they should be paying attention to. What? Consciousness. You want to know about consciousness? Tag, you're it. Are you conscious or not? You're conscious. And they explored, just like we explored outside, they explored inside. What is consciousness? Where did it come from? Who am I? Why do I have thoughts? And who's looking at the thoughts? They literally studied the inner world. And what they found, which is absolutely unbelievable, is the deeper they went inside. What does that mean? They let go of the outside, let go of what their senses were sending them. They let go of their emotions. They let go of all the lower vibrations. And every time you let go, if you're distracted by her, you're not paying attention to me. If you cannot be distracted by her, you can pay attention to more. So if you're not distracted, if your consciousness is not distracted by the outer world, doesn't mean you're renouncing it. It just you happen to be in there. What would happen if your consciousness wasn't pulled down into the outer world? You'd still be in there, but you wouldn't be aware or distracted by what's outside. Okay? Then you come in and you say, well, there's all kinds of thoughts. Can I stop the thoughts? Can I stop being distracted? Not stop the thoughts. You don't have to stop the world to not be distracted by it. You just be distracted by it. Don't let it pull your consciousness into it. You don't have to stop your thoughts or stop your emotions. No. It's not about suppression or denial or renunciation. No. It's about not being distracted. You don't have to be distracted by your thoughts, do you? They come, they go. Some distract you, some don't. What if you meditated, that's a word we use, mean what you became introspective enough to where you worked with yourself to where you weren't distracted by your thoughts. And that's one of the reasons they went into the caves. It's very hard to be distracted by what's inside of a cave. So they're not distracted. They're not distracted. And what happened to some of them, very great ones, is when they were not distracted, they found themselves in consciousness. Not conscious of something. You're normally conscious of an object of consciousness. What if there was no object of consciousness? There were no thoughts. There were no emotions. There was no senses bringing this stuff in. Consciousness itself is not being distracted by those things. There is such a thing as consciousness itself. That's what consciousness is. And when they did that, an amazing thing happened. They ceased to be this individual being whose consciousness is looking at this person, and it merged. That's what merger is. What yoga is about. That's what the word merger means, union. That all of a sudden, their awareness of being expanded into the entire universe. Don't ever use the word enlightenment, because that is what an enlightened being is, and there ain't a lot of them, nor have there been through time. But there are some, right? And all of a sudden, every galaxy is their body. Everything that exists, they're conscious of it because it's made of consciousness. That's why Christ said, my Father and I are one. It's the essence of yoga. He's the greatest yogi that ever lived. My Father and I are one. What does that mean? My consciousness that was looking at me stopped looking at me. And his not only did stop it, maybe since born the King of Angels, maybe he was born perfect. I don't know. It's not my business. But he was merged all the time. He could come and interact. So the masters, the great ones, went deep enough to merge. And it's really amazing to read their stories. It's just, that's why their pictures of some of them exist around here. Okay? Very, very great beings that could merge at will and come back and merge. And that's that. All right. So that's what's going on, is there's this thing called consciousness, and there's this thing called form. What's the relationship? What I love about the chant, Master wrote that chant, spirit and nature dancing together. Okay, so far we talked about nature. That's where nature comes from. Where does spirit or consciousness, awareness of being, where does it come from? It's always there. It's always been there. And it is from that always been there that creation got created, and then it looks down into its own creation. And that's when you start to see that that's what's happening, right? Is that you are the divine consciousness looking down into the creation that in the end you created, but not the little you. That consciousness, that field of universal consciousness looks down into what it created, and then there's this dance going on between spirit and nature. Isn't that beautiful? And so that in yoga tradition, they have a name for God. I love it. There's a number of names for God, of course. But one of the very beautiful names of God that was given by the deep enlightened beings was Chit Shakti. All right? Chit is consciousness, and Shakti is energy. That's the closest you're getting to understanding God. Chit Shakti, conscious energy. That's what it is, conscious energy. It's not just consciousness, it's conscious energy. What's the difference? No, it's like the electromagnetic field is not two fields. But they found out, usually it was two fields. They found out, no, it's just one field interacting with itself in different polarities, and you get electromagnetism, and energy and magnetism, right? So Chit Shakti is not two separate things, conscious and energy. It's one thing that has the properties of conscious and energy. And that conscious energy is emanating as the quantum field coming up and looking down into it. Shakti, creation, form, force, power, consciousness, they're the same thing. And that's where the oneness comes from. It's so deep, it's ridiculous. Okay? The important part, why am I talking about that? Tag, you're it. We're not talking about somebody else. We're not talking about some force somewhere. You are that. That's what this is. This is conscious energy, right? Okay, and we're going to talk about the fall from the garden in a minute. So that is the natural state of being, that God, through Shakti, through the power of Shakti, creates the quantum field. It comes up, emanates, and then through the power of Chit Shakti, all right, it looks down into it. And that's what's meant in Genesis. Adam and Eve were in the garden. There were no problems. How could there be a problem? There's only one thing. You can't have a problem with one thing, right? You need two things to have a problem, by the way. Go argue with one thing, okay? So God is merged, and it's all the same thing, but it's having this dance with itself. It's just dancing, enjoying, and experiencing. Okay, so what happened? If that's really what's going on, and for a moment I'm going to say to you, I said it once before, do you know what that means? Your consciousness, because you're human, comes down. It's really all the same consciousness, but one ray of that consciousness, one focus of that consciousness is on your body, your thoughts, and your emotions. That's why you have an ego. That's what you think you are. You think you are that thing. You're not. You're the consciousness looking at that thing. And every moment, there is something passing before you that is an expression of that quantum field. It comes up, and here is a bird. Here it is, a sunset. It comes up, and it's passing right before your eyes. That means you are God's ambassador to that moment. You're the only one that has ever seen or ever will see the moment that's passing in front of you. And you have every moment of your life is that way. No one has ever experienced exactly what you experienced. They weren't standing in the same place. They weren't this, they weren't that. You are unique. You're so unique. You are the ambassador to God's consciousness to experience God's form. How you doing? I think you failed at that job. Okay? Well, why? Because now we'll talk about what the fall from the garden is. What happens? All right? If that's what it is, there's no problem. There's nothing. And you know the Bible. When you fell from the garden, what does it say? Now you must work by the sweat of your brow to be okay. Anyone know anything about that? Anybody struggling? Anybody trying to make things be a certain way? Otherwise, it just is, and it's one, and it's just God experiencing God, God dancing with God. Nothing's right, wrong, nothing. It just is. It just all is. So what happened? I always get there to this point. I'm sorry, I have to, right? So what went wrong around here? That does not seem like that, okay? What went wrong is the focus of God consciousness, all right? Looking down, focusing on this part of form, what makes up your body, your emotions, this and that, mostly your body. There it is. Things come in from the outside world. What's the outside world? God. It's all God. There's no outside world, okay? There's just creation. There's just these forces emanating, creating every single thing you interact with, including your eyeballs. Well, how come it looks the way it does? Because emanated from the quantum field, there are molecules and atoms that make up your eyeballs. And those eyeballs are tuned exactly in a way so that when your consciousness looks through them, it looks like this. Holy mackerel. I tell you, do you want to get close to it? Go get real close to your flat screen TV. What will you see? A movie? No, you see pixels. You see dots. So you have to step back just the right amount, and the dots become Tom Cruise or whatever's going on. Right or wrong, your eyes were made by the quantum field. That's how brilliant creation is. They're exactly right, so that when they look out into the world, it looks like people. It looks like male and female. It looks like sunsets. Okay, is it blowing your mind yet? I mean, it's like, you understand the power of daring to look at what's actually going on versus what you do every day? Give me a break, because what you do every day is not what's going on. There ain't nothing going on except God expressing himself. All right, so what happened? What happens is the outside world is going about its business, being the quantum field, expressing itself. It comes in, and your consciousness receives it. That's the original sin. The original sin is you separated, you in there, that now are looking down, separate, at your body, at your senses, so on. You got a vibration in your consciousness, in your awareness, that said, I don't like what came in. I would rather that come in. Didn't you do that? You separated oneness into duality. And that is the original sin. Now you've heard the word duality. Now you understand. Where did it come from? It's all one. It's just something that happened. I can't explain it, not me. You go ask some master. Okay. In fact, I'll tell you what Mayor Bubba said when they asked him. It's just basically what was coming in was coming in. You're experiencing whatever it is. You're just experiencing it. Night, day, up, down, dark, light, whatever it is. But the consciousness that is receiving creation, God, that's receiving God's creation, created a block, just created something that said, I'm going to use my Shakti, my will, my power from up here to push away what came in. What do you mean? It came in. I don't have to accept it. I don't have to accept that it came in. I don't like that it came in. There's this sense of preference, the sense of separating oneness into duality. And you're doing it every single second of every minute of your life. That's why the third Zen patriarch says, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. You want to merge? If you're not separating what you like from what you dislike, there's no one doing anything. It's fine. Then you're not being drawn down or distracted by it. But that's not how we humans live. So we had something come in, the initial thing, that you decided to use your will, your power, your Shakti. That's where will comes from. It comes from above. Then you focus and you push it away. Do you push things away? Do you know what I mean when I say you resist inside and push them away? I don't want to have this. I don't want to experience this. In fact, I don't want to have experienced this. It already happened. And so you're in there using the power of God, the power that was given you, free will. You have free will. Can I like that and not like that? You have free will. What happens if I like that and don't like that? I stored inside of my mind, and developed this mind that stored what I don't like. Oh, how do you know what you don't like? I held it. I would make fun of you. I say, what kind of thing is it to do that the things you don't like the most, you store so they can stay there? That's what suppression is. What's inside your subconscious? That which you suppressed. Talk to Freud. What do you mean you suppressed it? Who suppressed it? You did. And you're using the power of consciousness, God, descended God that's supposed to be experiencing his creation, to say, nah, not on my watch, you're not going to experience this. And you push it away. And what that does is build a block inside your energy flow, so that now whatever comes in hits that, and you feel bad again. Mommy said something 30 years ago. Somebody says something similar, and your heart starts beating. You stored it, so that now you're blocked. That's what's called blocked. You start storing all this stuff that you don't like or do like. You store what you like. Also, why do you store what you like? Because I want it to happen again. Why do you store what you don't like? Because I don't want it to happen again. But you stored them both inside your energy flow. So now your energy flow is blocked. You're not looking at creation. You're looking at what you want creation to be. You're not looking at creation. You're looking at what you don't want creation to be, both past, present, and future. Don't you make up a future? Well, it didn't happen yet, but I make one up. And that's how you develop what's called a personal mind. This is big talk, but you understand that. So that now you are blocked. What is a human being? Blocked God. Yogananda, they once asked Yogananda, what is the ego? Well, people write books on what is the ego, right? He didn't. He said, the masquerading self. And it was you in there, divine consciousness, pure consciousness, built these blocks that you can build things out of, stored them inside from your past experiences, and you're holding them in front of you saying, oh, this is who I am. I'm a woman and I'm this, and I got married to so-and-so, but then we got divorced. That stuff's over years and years ago. It doesn't even exist anymore. You just built it inside this thing called your personal mind. Mind? No, mind is literally as big as consciousness. You can think of anything. It's totally expansive, but you narrowed it down to stare at what you stored in there. That's what you're doing every day of your life. That's why some things hit you and say, hit my stuff. You stored in there all this stuff that you collected over the course of your life. So that now when the world comes in, you can't experience the world naturally. You experience the filter that you put in there, so that when the world comes in, you're afraid, you like it, you don't like it. It messes me up. I can't sleep at night because I'm afraid what might happen tomorrow or because of what happened 3 years ago. You stored this inside this beautiful thing called mind that was able to understand. You just understood what the quantum field is. But no, that's not what I think about. I think about the fact that this might happen and I'm afraid of that. And what if my kid gets sick? Oh my God, and I want to have a baby and I wasn't able to have a baby. What am I supposed to do? My husband wanted to have a baby. Okay, go do that with your mind. Have fun, because you won't. And so basically, that's what's going on in this limited arena of mind called the personal mind. The intellectual mind, the abstract mind is still there. If you're a scientist, you may use it to solve a given problem. It's still pretty small. And master's mind, all right, Ramakrishna, great master again, they say these things that it takes for your whole life to understand what they're talking about. The purified mind is no different than the self. The purified mind is no different from the self. Well, the self we're talking about is pure consciousness, God, the self. What do you mean the purified mind? The one that doesn't swear? No, the non-personal mind, that which is done with all your personal garbage that you hold together into this little spot of your mind. If that's gone, all of a sudden everything merges. There's no difference between the size of mind. That's why Buddhists don't use the word God. Zen Buddhists don't use the word God. They use the word mind with a capital M. Same. They're talking about empty mind. It's very beautiful to understand this stuff, isn't it? So basically, what we've done as humans is not have empty mind or purified mind or so on, is we have stored this warehouse of things we didn't like and do like inside of mind, so that mind is now so small that we say, this is who I am. I'm this little messed up thing. That's what I am. How do you know? I'm watching it. I know what I am. The Beatles had a song. I didn't know. I was a Beatles fan. Come on, I grew up in the 60s. They had a song. They still have the song. You can look it up, called I, Me, Mine. No, it's a Beatles song, I, Me, Mine. It's so beautiful. It goes something like, I, me, mine all the time. I, me, mine. I, me, mine. All right? You're staring at what you stored, what you like, what you don't like, and what happened to you. And you made yourself so little that the whole world is now I, me, mine. But the one time I saw it so strong in my early days, I think sometimes he still does. I have to watch him. All right? Somebody's telling me a story. Oh, I went out and I got a new car. You know what he said? Oh, I don't need one. Well, what does he got a new car have anything to do with you? Everything comes through the I, me, mind, because that's what's stored in there, your stuff. Okay? That's the fall from the garden. That's why you meditate. That's why you do mantra. That's why you do practices. That's why all the spiritual teachings teach selflessness. They're a start of get over it. You are not the center of the universe. You're just part of God consciousness trying to experience the beauty of creation. Here's some music. I don't like that. Oh, we made a mistake on that note. Here's a beautiful painting, a Monet. Oh, I don't know. The brushstroke wasn't perfect. Let's critique it. Wow. You won't just experience anything. The closest you come sometimes with music. Music can move you beyond yourself, can't it? You can get lost in the music. It can take you into very beautiful, it takes you back to God. So that is spirit and nature dancing together. It's supposed to be God experiencing God's creation. What's wrong with that? Nothing. It's beautiful. And that's where the great ones are. That's where nirvana is. Just the total merger of all of it into one. And then you just experience the ecstasy of God. You actually, yogi was another name, a great master, another name for God. Instead of Chit Shakti. And they say Sat Chidananda. Ever heard that? Sat Chidananda. That's a name for God. Sat is eternity. Chit is consciousness. And Ananda is ecstasy. You're describing God by the state of his being. Eternal conscious ecstasy. That's who you are. That's where the masters live. That's what nirvana is. That's what's going on here. But not to you, because you decided, not willfully, but you decided to store all this stuff in there about you. And now everything hits you. Everything's about you. Because when it comes in, it does what I said. I don't need one. Somebody tells a story. I'm having trouble with my husband. Well, thank God I'm not. It always comes back. Have you seen it? It always comes back to the I. And people say, well, of course, that's who I am. It is not who you are. You're the consciousness noticing that it happens. And so witness consciousness, which is a big term nowadays, mindfulness, witness consciousness, is when you step back. Who steps back? You in there. And you start watching your mind instead of being your mind. And you start noticing that you can do that some, but there are big things in there that when they get stimulated, you get pulled out. They pull you out of witness consciousness into the lost state. Like, what about your heart? What about emotions? Oh, how far can I go? What are emotions? Someday you will go deep enough. You don't need a book. You will know what emotions are because you see them, you watch them. Emotions are the flow of Shakti. Remember, there's energy flowing down and up. It's just supposed to flow right through. That's what your conception vessel and governing vessel that they tell you in Eastern medicine is it comes in, it goes up. It comes in, but it doesn't because it's blocked. And that's where a lot of sickness comes from. That's what all acupuncture is about. So the energy is supposed to flow straight through, but it doesn't. What does it do? You blocked it. It can't come back up. It can't flow because you blocked it. You pushed it away. You pushed away what you don't like. So you made a storehouse you dammed it up. So it can't come back up. It can't finish its journey back up. When the energy is trying to flow and it's trying to come back up, there are times where it can get a little channel. A little bit can make it up. And you feel happy. You're feeling that energy. You're feeling Satchidananda, the little bit that makes it through your blockages. But the only way it does it is if everything's exactly the way you want. If everything all of a sudden, you win the lottery and your husband says he loves you more than anything in the whole world, you find out you can't have a baby, man, whoa, you're flying high. Till it's April 1st, they say, oh, you're just fooling, now you're depressed. That's how easy it is. That's just some scars, the thing you store down there moving around based on what's coming in. Sometimes there's openness. So it needs to be open. And it's a lot of times just totally blocked, totally dark in there. That's why. So you have this ability to, but the reason is now you go out into the world and you're trying to make it be the way you want it to be so you feel okay. But you need to manipulate everything outside of you to make that happen. You think that's success. You're caught. Look at the big, strong people nowadays. They have to manipulate everybody and everything to be okay. You know how rich they are, powerful they are. And so basically you catch on. That's what's happening. The Shakti's blocked. Sometimes it can come through a little bit. And what spirituality is about is watching that. The witness consciousness, you just notice. You don't fight it. Just notice. Wow. But sometimes the emotion, what's the emotion? It's that energy. I can tell you that. That energy comes up and it hits a block. What happens if you put a rock in a beautiful stream of water that's flowing properly? It creates eddies and currents and sprays. That's what your emotions are. They're that energy hitting the blockages and then shooting out. You feel it, shoots out through your nerves, shoots out through everything. It was a heartache. You were in love. There was an openness. This is a crash course, right? You had openness. Your heart was open. The energy was flowing through the heart, flowing up. Beautiful, because it's connected with the other person. They're behaving everything the way you want, right? Then all of a sudden they do something you don't like, or they leave, or they die. Something happens. Now the energy can't flow. And it hits. It was open, so it was flowing. The more open it was, the harder it is when it stops flowing. It hits the blockages, and you feel that pain inside. That's what that pain is. It is that Shakti trying to come up, hitting the block of where it used to go. It used to make it out to you. I connected with you, but now I can't. And so it hits inside. It's bouncing off the walls. God, I wish they would teach you something, right? Because maybe you can deal with it better. Don't you understand what's going on? So basically, that's what it means to be a human being. Is it not? That's what it means to be a human being. Is you created these blockages. Now your energy is blocked. What energy? God energy. Can you all of a sudden turn a corner and see this beautiful sunset and catch you by surprise? The next thing you know, you're in ecstasy. You're just blown away. You just feel the presence of God all around you. I told you what it says. It touched me to the depth of my being. He used words like that. It did. It touched you being there, because it wasn't blocked in your mind anymore. But it will start right away. Don't worry, it won't last very long. The story I always tell is, you turn the corner, it's beautiful, you see all that, then all of a sudden your mind says afterwards, well, oh, look, there's a house on the corner, maybe we can buy it. I guarantee if you buy it, that will not happen to you anymore after 4 times. That's what's going on. That's why you're caught in this human. Well, what was the purpose of all this? They asked Meher Baba. Why did God express himself? Why did he create the heavens and earth? You're not going to like the answer. Ready? On a whim. Watch a beautiful dancer who's lost in the Shakti of dancing. She's totally gone. And ask her when she's done, oh, at minute 4.3, you moved your hand to the left. Why'd you do that? On a whim. It was just pure expression. There was nobody doing anything. That's how God created the whole universe. It's just like, wow, let's express. And the terrible part is really hard to understand. Every single part of everything that ever was or will ever be was an expression of that. And you say, no, not bad people. There's no judgment. There's just oneness. That's what Christ was. Let you without sin throw the first stone. You robbers on the cross next to me, I assure you, you'll be in heaven with me. There was no judgment. There was no any of that kind of stuff. In other words, if you're willing to let go of yourself, it's over. All of it can rise up. So the spiritual path, first, now do you understand Jnana Yoga? Pretty strong stuff, isn't it? I hope you weren't bored by the story of where it all came from and what it all is and who you are and what's the reality of what's going on. That wisdom, maintaining that wisdom, that you contemplate that. When I first started, when I just was so inspired to move out here and be alone and just keep that state that was high, all right? I would get into my car, and before I would start the car, I would stop and go out into the universe and realizing I'm on a little tiny planet. I'm about to scoot around in this little machine from one place to another, but it would be in the frame of reference of way bigger. And when I get back in my car, when I'm leaving, do the same thing. Even running the business, I'd walk in, there's a door. I'd stop before I walk in the door. I do it. I don't do it now because I don't have to. It just happens. All right. I go to walk in a door. There's this moment of awareness. I'm on a planet in the middle of nowheres. Remember, right? 4.5 light years away is the next star, right? And I'm about to open a door. Okay. And I do it. I do a phone call would come, no matter who it is, take a breath, stop. I'm sitting on a planet about to talk on this little wired thing, or now wireless. And you just keep bringing your consciousness back to reality. Because what I just talked to you about is reality, isn't it? That junk you got going on in there, that's just illusion, and error. That's just made up stuff. Your past is over, isn't it? Then why is it in there bothering you? Because you held it there. You decided, I'll hold this stuff in here so it doesn't happen again. It might as well happen again every time because it bothers you all the time. It doesn't make any sense. So wisdom, Jnana Yoga, let go. Let go. Just keep focused on the highest and let go what's coming up from the lowest. It's called transmutation of energy. It comes up low, comes up as anger, fear, insecurity. Notice it, breathe, and offer to God. Bring it up. Bring it up. And what will happen is you'll start feeling, and it'll close now, you will at some point, not through effort or will, it will just happen, you'll start noticing that there's energy inside of you. There always was. That's what anger's energy, sexual drives, all these different things are energy trying to express themselves, aren't they? What is anger? Blockage trying to express itself. All of this stuff is trying to express itself. At some point, you won't be blocked as much. And the energy will change direction. Whereas normally you're struggling not to have it go down, you're trying to hold it up. It starts going up by itself. It's called the flow of Shakti. The Shakti flow starts flowing up. And what does it do? It brings your consciousness up with it. Why? Because it's more beautiful. Ramdas once said, there's nothing that can come in through my senses that's higher than what's already going on inside of me. That's what happens. This is coming in. You don't need anything. It's all happening inside. The kingdom is within you. There's so much that Christ said that is the absolute truth, all right? So it starts changing direction. When it changes direction, it starts pulling your consciousness up into it. That's the ascent. And the next thing you know, it's just light is coming off of you. You don't do anything. You're a very great being. You're not some little thing that has to prove yourself or care about people think. Why do you care about people think about you if you make the planet spin in the middle of nowhere? And so you just start letting go. You start letting go. When it comes up, you let go. When it comes up, you let go. If it's big, it'll pull you down. It's okay. You learn. Just keep letting go. You keep letting go. And next thing you know, that energy will change directions. And you'll see the greatness who you are. You're a great being. Jagradev.
You've been listening to the Michael Singer Podcast, produced by Sounds True in partnership with Shanti Publications. For more information on Michael's body of work and all back episodes, please join us at michaelsingerpodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening. Sounds True, waking up the world.